Hi, family. Welcome. It's great to be with you. I have a special guest joining us in a few moments, and I am deeply honored to be able to share this Instagram live with him. I'm just going to wait for all of you to jump on. Just a warm welcome to all of you. I have a special surprise for all of you. You are in for a treat. A gentleman that I love dearly who is truly making a difference in the world. And so welcome to this very special live. I am honored that you are here. You're in for a treat. Let's see, we're adding him now. Hi, Dave. How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, brother. How's it going there?
It's going really well, and thank you for a fantastic interview on Bulletproof Radio. I can't wait to edit this and get it out the door. It was really cool to talk about your new book.
Yeah, it was a joy to connect with you, and you know, I really feel that people are really going to get so much out of our time together, because when they begin to understand that right now, in the midst of this global pandemic, they have every opportunity to evolve and come out of this stronger. You know, we're really being presented an amazing opportunity here. And so, Dave, why don't you just highlight some of the things that you're doing personally and how we can really empower people at this time to make the most of this gift and make the most of this opportunity?
You know, people call me the father of biohacking, and I've written a lot about how do we make our biology work better? How do we improve our diet? But what happens when you do that is all of the personal development work that is in your domain. It turns out if you have more energy in your brain, more energy in your body, it's much easier to wake up and meditate and do the deep breathing exercises, or to join your 9 a.m. calls every morning. And just to have what it takes to rewire yourself, because that's an extra bump above what life normally requires, for you to eat and take care of your family and do all that. So I found that finding the right foods that work for you, that might not be the same as work for everyone else, and finding the type of ways you can improve your sleep quality and ways you can exercise in small amounts of time without overtraining. And when you do that, you have more time and more energy in order to show up and do the heavy lifting on the spiritual side of things you want to do. And that's allowed me to have a fantastic career. And I've started multiple companies, New York Times bestselling author, top podcast, all that kind of stuff. And a family and wife and kids, and be at peace the whole time because I have enough. When I say having enough, I'm talking about having enough core energy to show up to then do the esoteric being enough that you write about so eloquently in your latest book.
I feel like that's so important, because in spirituality, the part that people neglect the most is the physical body and the physical reality of life. And, you know, just shoring up that foundation and making sure that we're functioning optimally is so important, because when we think about what we're doing, we're really connecting at a level of subtle energy. And so we have to make sure that the body's strong. We have to make sure that we have the ability to process emotion, that we have the ability to, be in a state hormonally where we're in balance. All of these things contribute to creating an environment internally where we can truly flourish and thrive in every area. What are some of the things that you're noticing as trends that are emerging in the midst of the pandemic that people are doing or turning toward in the term of supplements or hacks or probiotics or things that are really making a difference now?
Well, I wrote a blog post, and I even did a little mini episode on Bulletproof Radio about managing inflammation, including the inflammatory cytokine storm. And inflammation will show up in your brain, even if it's not inflammation from from having a viral infection. It could be inflammation from just drinking too much alcohol last night and eating a bunch of food that wasn't really good for you. And that'll show up as a muffin top in your head. But when you're dealing with, wow, I might actually have a virus or have a risk of getting the virus, this inflammation storm is what ends up getting you in the hospital. So what if you could turn down inflammation? And it turns out there's 60 studies of 40 different foods. And some of those will feel real familiar to you. But turmeric, the high dose stuff that you would find in Indian food. There are studies of turmeric specifically with IL-6. So what you want to do is focus on anti-inflammatory spices. There is overwhelming evidence that adding zinc to your diet, 15, maybe even 30 milligrams in divided doses a day, is going to help you be more resilient. And I love the title of your book, You Are Enough. Well, you can help yourself be enough. And the deal here is, how do I make sure that my immune system is enough? And zinc is one of the ways to do that. And the combination of vitamin C and zinc stops iron overload, which is a side effect of this. And then the other thing you do is stuff that increases your ability to make energy. It increases your resilience. And one of the biggest things you can do there is fix your mitochondria. And I wrote a whole book on how to do this called Headstrong. But the short version of that is if you were to take some of the things like coenzyme Q10, like anything that helps you be in ketosis, which you would get from fasting, the way all of our sages and gurus have at some points in their lives. You probably aren't going to be fasting right now, although it's a good idea if you do sometimes. You can do things like ketone supplements, things like the Bulletproof Brain Octane oil that goes in Bulletproof coffee. You can put it in your tea. You can put it on a salad. It doesn't matter. But having a little bit of ketones for their anti-inflammatory effect, that combination of more powerful energy and less inflammation equals I had enough to not go to the hospital. That's a really big deal.
Yeah, we were having a great conversation, and some of the key factors that are being explored here are pivotal right now, guys. It's not just about the spiritual component; it's also about the physiological component and making sure that we're tending to our bodies in the way that we need, potentially as it relates to our immunity. Because now is a time to boost our immunity, not just to the fear and the energy of the virus, but also the physical reality of re-emerging into a world with this unknown, with this uncertainty. That re-emergence in and of itself is going to be a difficult period of discovery and re-entry for so many. What was normal before isn't going to be normal, at least for a few months, if not longer, depending on when we decide at a consensus level that we're okay to resume our regular activities. And so it's important, please, that you strengthen every aspect of who you are. I know personally, my physicality has been something that I have always struggled with. And, I've been very well documented about that struggle with all of you. And I want you to know that we cannot just live in these states of transcendence and expect that transcendence alone is going to bring forth the outcome that we want, right? We have to also master our physicality, take care of this vessel in the vehicle that we have, and feed it everything that we need on that level so that we can be of service. And so some of the things that we explored in our talk was also some of the things that we can do right now to mitigate some of those stress factors and some of that overwhelm that's going on. So what are you finding that's helping you on a daily basis, just on a very simple level, from like exercising to, to going out, getting some vitamin D and things like that?
The most important thing for me is how well did I sleep last night? Not how long did I sleep, but just how good of a job did I do sleeping? And I do that by monitoring my sleep. I have a ring. There's all kinds of devices and gadgets. They're actually worth it. They will tell you, oh, you slept 6 hours, but you got lots of deep sleep, lots of dream sleep. And they can even tell you, are you physically rested? So today's the day you should push it. So waking up and just knowing how good of a job did I do last night? Could I have improved that? Did the late night snack or did the glass of wine really affect my sleep? Wow, it really did. So you learn so you can become better as a process. And then not having a breakfast, skipping breakfast, intermittent fasting, or at least not having sugar for breakfast or carbs. So having breakfast that's focused on fat and maybe some protein changes your whole morning, where you're less focused on eating a muffin, having a snack. And since we're all at home, we're stuck. And so you have a kitchen full of whatever you could eat that you have that's there. So what are you going to do in that kind of an environment? Well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to either have more willpower or turn off your hunger. And seriously, fruit for breakfast will make you hungry, and you're going to snack all day long. So if you snack all the time, it's going to make you weak. So that's a very big deal. And then going out in the morning without contact lenses, I don't wear contacts, and without sunglasses or even prescription glasses for just 20 minutes, that will reset your circadian rhythm. So be outside, let the light hit your skin, let the light into your eyes. You're not going to get a sunburn. It won't do bad things to your skin in that amount of time. That's a huge thing that's going to make you feel very, very different throughout the day. And if you're in a place where you're not allowed to do that, at least go to the window. Just sit there in front of the window. You can read a book if you want to. You can do some breathing exercises, but get that light in, because light is it's a nutrient for your body. It's really important.
I love that you said that. You know, right now we're experiencing a phenomenon that we haven't experienced in a very long time. You know, we're naturally able now to tune into the Earth's rhythm because we're not overwhelmed by all of this traffic and all of this impact that we have as a species on this planet. And so people are being called now more and more to stick their feet in the earth, or to go to the beach and just stick their feet in the sand, or just commune with nature in a more deeper and meaningful way. And so I love that you said that. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but carry on.
That's not a problem at all. And I look at the other things that happen. There's a comment here from I don't know how to spell her name. It says grazing isn't the problem, quality of the snack is the issue. It turns out grazing is the problem. Even if you're grazing on the world's best snacks, like your body should have times when all of its resources are going towards self-repair instead of towards digesting whatever you put in your mouth a few minutes ago. So these periods for at least 8 hours and ideally 16 hours sometimes, or maybe once a week, like I do, just don't eat for a day. Listen, I'm not going to have dinner. I'm not going to have lunch. And you'll see these huge voices in you saying, you're going to die. And they're all lies. It's complete lies. But you're going to feel that stress and that fear. Doing that occasionally will really increase your resilience. And if you want to know that you are enough, you don't have to run a marathon to prove it. Try going 48 hours without eating. Like, you are enough to do that. You know you won't die. But man, you are going to hear some voices in your head that will tell you the exact opposite of that. So this is a way for you to understand how much power you actually have, but it's power over your own biology, over your own urges. And that's a big part of your practice when you're dealing with pandemic is, all right, how do I make sure that I have some strength there? How do I build my resilience? Well, you build resilience through practice, but now is not a time to overdo it. So if you're already feeling weak and saying, oh, I'm going to exercise for an hour and a half on the bike, I'm going to start fasting, I'm going to take ice baths, I'm going to go crazy on biohacking. Look, man, kindness is also a part of this thing, right? So it's how do I push myself beyond what I think are my limits very briefly and then recover so that my limits will move. And that's my practice every day, whether or not there's a pandemic. Don't overdo it, don't underdo it.
I love that. You know, as a kid, I would eat one day and I would fast the next day. And it was just,
Wow.
and my mom was like, and I would eat like I'd never eaten. And the next day I just wouldn't eat. And somehow my mom allowed this to happen. And I was so happy, and even today, like my grandmother actually was a huge inspiration for me. And she would fast every Monday and every Thursday.
Wow.
And she would just honor that fast and observe that fast for the family and for the well-being of the family. So she did it for a spiritual reason, but also she was gleaning the physiological benefits of those fasts. And one of the things that I felt called to do when this pandemic began was actually to fast as well. And not fast for the entire duration of the time, just because the energy that I'm pouring out every day, but just to give my system a break. Just to give my energy, my life force energy, my prana, an opportunity to focus on something else rather than just a process of digestion, which is where the majority of our life force energy is consumed. It's just in this process of digestion, right? And so giving yourself a break and fasting and having some time to just take a break from the regular functions that we're engaged in are really helpful. And of course, make sure that you're in a good position to do that. Make sure that, you're not overly taxing your system, but understand the benefits of some of these ancient practices and understand that there's a reason why our ancestors encouraged us to engage in them for the rejuvenation of who we are and for the building of that resilience that Dave was talking about. Because you know what? I want you to be stronger on the other side of this thing than you were going into it. And it's only going to happen when you begin to tap into how powerful you are, the access that you have inside of you to tap into that power and to support yourself in nurturing that beyond this time. And so this is an incredibly powerful time. Somebody was asking about adrenal fatigue, and there was another question about gut health. So
Sure.
What do we do about adrenal fatigue?
Adrenal fatigue is something that I really, really dealt with. And it's a problem. Number one fix for it, go to bed 10 o'clock at night and make sure it's dark before you go to bed. So you have to dim the lights, not look at bright screens. One of the companies I started, it's called True Dark. I'm not trying to get you guys to buy the glasses, but you'll see me wear these almost always, actually, when I'm under bad lighting. These block indoor fluorescent lighting from affecting your brain, but there's a version of these designed for sleep. And when you do that, whether you dim your lights, you have red lights or at least amber lights, but red's better, before bed, that actually allows your body to line up it's called the HPA, the axis between the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. So darkness at night, and then when you wake up in the morning, salt water. And this is an old, also Ayurvedic trick. The Ayurvedic stuff is quite interesting. So you take a pinch of sea salt, better yet Himalayan salt, you put it in water, and you drink that right when you first wake up, and then get that light exposure in your eyes like I talked about. Mm-hmm. And that alone, plus cutting some sugar, probably cutting wheat is going to be necessary. The spikes in blood sugar aren't good for you during the day. That alone, just combined with getting good sleep on a regular schedule, which you can do now that you're at home, that can be life-changing, but it can take a couple months. There's also adrenal extract, there's adaptogenic herbs, and things like that. And here's something that's very important. If someone has severe adrenal fatigue, stage 4, all that, they will tell you you cannot have coffee if you have adrenal fatigue. That is mean. You can have 1 cup of coffee in the morning when you wake up, and that's to raise your cortisol in the morning when it should be high. And you don't want to have coffee all day long. But if you try to fix adrenal fatigue with 0 coffee, you are probably just going to feel like crap for longer. So don't abuse coffee, but one thing in the morning is good. And certainly none of us should have coffee after 2 p.m. So don't rely on that if you're in late stage adrenal fatigue. You can have a couple of cups a day, even if your adrenals are stressed. Just get your sleep, get your darkness, you'll be fine.
And then what about the question about gut health? It's become a big point of conversation. There's a doctor lives in Naples, David Palmer-Tresci, who's a big proponent of the microbiome. And, it wasn't the first person to have that conversation, but there are so many people that have had that conversation about the biome. So what are some things that we can do for gut health to advocate on behalf of ourselves during this time?
This has been a big part of all 3 of my big New York Times books about how does our biology work? How do we age less? How do we have our brains work better? And how do we have our guts work better? When I weighed 300 pounds, my gut was wrecked. I was on antibiotics every month for 15 years. So I had a lot of repair work to do. And I tracked the number of species of bacteria and the type that are in my gut using a test called Viome. That's Viome. And what I found was that by taking prebiotics, I was able to quadruple the number of species of good bacteria in my gut. As you age, you have fewer types of bacteria in your gut, and young people have more types. So I went from having a middle-aged person's number of bacteria to having a young person's number of bacteria. It took me 3 months of taking prebiotics every day. The prebiotics I use are the ones that I manufactured for Bulletproof. I formulated them, but I tested them on myself before I launched it, and it had a profound effect. And what's in it is acacia gum and hydrolyzed guar gum. These are tree resins that are documented in studies to feed your good bacteria. And the Bulletproof product is called Inner Fuel. So I would tell you, probiotics are good. I've spent $100,000 on probiotics in my life trying to fix my gut. Prebiotics plus probiotics will blow things away. I'm a big fan of Just Thrive as one of the brands of probiotics that I like, and combining that with prebiotics is a very good move.
Dave, you're just like an infinite resource as it comes to how to optimize the human experience in terms of the body and how we optimize our performance. Are there any other things that you'd like to share at this time about, especially as it relates to the pandemic and how we can mitigate some of the impact of what's happening? And I shared this with you, so many people right now that we know are trying to grasp onto some version of certainty where there is none to be found. Now, the blessing of being spiritual is that you thrive in uncertainty. So you cultivate this place of inner flexibility. So for those people that are struggling, they're in resistance, they're just floundering, there's no direction. What are some things that they can do, and how can they be supported through this time?
One of the things you can do is recognize that most of the people, in fact, on my Instagram page, there's a video called Pandemic Math. And it's very important. If you're feeling stressed about this, you have to see the video. And the reason is that there's this thing, I call it the magic number in the video. And I think it's about 6 or 7 posts down on the main Instagram page for me. And the magic number is the number of people who have the virus but haven't been tested and don't have symptoms. And that's the only number that really matters. So in the H1N1, at the beginning, all the experts said 1.3% death rate, end of the world, big pandemic. So when they actually got the magic number, which takes a couple of years, they revised it down to 0.02% death rate. So we are living in a world where the magic number is this big scary thing. We don't know the magic number, but there is zero chance that it's as big as they think it is right now. So the whole thing we're doing in our economy is fear-based. Am I self-isolating? Should you be self-isolating? Yeah, because we like our emergency room doctors and we like our elders, right? And we're doing this for them. But the odds of this being as big of a number as they think it is, the odds are not very good there. And some of the leading epidemiologists out there are saying that. They're also saying wash your hands and stay at home. It's a short-term strategy. So your personal risk is probably not as high as you feel like it is. And watch that video. It's like 6 minutes, pandemic math. It'll change your calmness. And that's the biggest thing you can do. Look, you're probably not average. You're probably better than that.
That's beautiful. Some people are asking if you could please just give them the names of your books. They want to connect with your books. Some of them don't have them. So what are the names of some of your books?
Superhuman just came out. This is how I'm going to live to at least 180 and why the science is real. And before that is Headstrong, which is how do you make your brain work better, longer. And the Bulletproof Diet is how people lose 1 million pounds. All three of them are New York Times bestsellers. And those are my work, as well as hundreds of other people's work from Bulletproof Radio, my podcast, distilled and run through a different way of thinking about how do you get control of your own biology. I think you'll find there's great value in them, and I did not waste a word in those books. Everything in there is there to provide value for you.
Where can they go to get more information, Dave?
Head on over to ig-dave-asprey.com, DAVEASPREY. I post a lot on Instagram, and you can follow me here. And I regularly post 2 podcasts a week, as well as all of the written stuff. It's all on Dave Asprey.
Yeah, please take some time to connect with him. You know, he's just an amazing soul. We first met actually in Costa Rica, and just had a wonderful interaction, and subsequently have stayed connected and just recorded a podcast. And here we are now. And I just couldn't think of a better person to bring to you all at this point, because, again, we're just being bombarded by so much false information, misinformation, and all of that is just feeding that fight or flight response that's undermining your immunity, it's undermining your well-being, it's undermining who you are. And so Dave's a big proponent of advocating on behalf of what actually works and what actually makes a difference, because he tests everything on himself. And so, you know, we're so fortunate in that we get to, you know, have access to that resource and connect in the way that we have. And so just a big shout out to everybody. And someone says, Dave's a super nerd and I trust him. I think that's the ultimate, bro.
Thanks, Gabby.
I think that's the ultimate that you could ever ask for. Gabby, thank you for that. That was perfect. Does anybody else have any questions in the chat or any other concerns that we could address for you guys? It's just a treat to have him on. If not, we'll just do some closing comments, and then we'll save this for prosperity, so you can let everybody know, please, that this will be available.
Perfect.
And it'll be accessible. Are there any other questions or any other comments? No, they're just basically sending their love right now, Dave. And
all right.
their
Thanks,
appreciation.
guys.
So my love to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave. And,
thank you.
Panache,
thank you. Your episode's amazing on Bulletproof Radio. You guys follow it on iTunes, subscribe to it. It should be up within a week or 2, and you're going to get really good info from Panache. I asked him questions no one's ever asked him before.
Yeah, he really did. If anyone was going to ask me these questions, it was going to be Dave Asprey. So tune in for that. I can't wait for you all to experience it. I love you all. Thank you, Dave. So much love to you. Thanks, brother. Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks, there you go. Dave Asprey, changing the world. Amazing man, bringing forth amazing information and insight, all from his heart to support all of you in being all that you are. Please go to daveasprey.com, get his books, get the supplements, take care of who you are at the physical level. If there's anything that we've learned as a result of this pandemic, it is health is wealth. Health is wealth. Make the investment in your health. Tap into this incredible resource. Transform your biology and watch how much easier it becomes to access all of these states of consciousness, all of these states of expansion that you have been moving toward for all of these years. I love you with all of my heart. Take care, fam.